TYBCOM for semester 5, which is actually approaching, and that's why to give a overview of subjects, the different experts have been are taking the crash course series. So this is the second episode of the crash course series for direct and indirect taxes. And to conduct today's session, we have one of the very experienced personality among us, that is Dr. C.A. Bhavne Binwani ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for accepting the invitation and sparing your valuable time for delivering this crash course series. Before we start the session, I would like to give a brief introduction of Bhavne ma'am. Ma'am is in this field for almost 20 years. She has completed her PhD and chartered accountancy. She has been invited by various colleges as a guest lecturer and as a guest of honor, as well as by the eminent commerce bodies, that is ICWAI. Man has also presented the research paper at different national as well as international conferences. Therefore, now I would like to hand over the session to Bhavne ma'am to start with the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for inviting me for this session. Ma'am, is it audible properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, dear students, as your semester is getting over, and by 26th October, we are expecting TYBCOM semester 5 examinations. So, the college has taken a very good initiative for keeping a crash course for you all. Now, just understand, this crash course is basically going to cover the entire subject of direct and indirect taxation. That is direct tax, what we have in semester 5. To start with, first of all, you all very well know that the paper is an applied component. That means it is an optional paper. We have various options available with this paper. And very important information, wherever be your center of your examination, this paper you have to come and give in your own college itself. So be very much careful. Let it be the center come as C.H.M or let it be the center come as RKT college. But for this paper, you have to come to your own college and give the paper. This is very much important to remember. Another thing, this is an applied component. Applied component means it is an optional paper in the system, but most of the colleges give this paper to the students. As being a commerce student, it is very much important that the students should be aware about direct and indirect taxation. So, colleges offer this paper as one of the compulsory paper only. Now, understanding, you all have done the entire syllabus of the paper. First, I would be discussing about the paper pattern. What is expected in the paper for 100 marks? You all are very well aware about the syllabus, as in the entire semester, your faculty, especially Reena madam, must have completed the entire syllabus by now. And hardly it is 20 days to go for your examination. So you must be doing your revisions. Now coming to the paper pattern, the syllabus you all know very well. It starts with definitions, a theory chapter, again residential status, scope of total income, going towards 5 sources of income, plus deductions, and finally to the computation. This is in a nutshell the syllabus. You all must be aware 5 sources of income are income from salary, house property, business income, capital gain. Then we have income from other sources, a residual section, and deductions, and finally computation. The paper pattern which appears for the examination is 100 marks paper. 20 marks are based on objectives, and last 20 marks is the theory question, which is either 10 marks 2 question, or you have to attempt short notes or 4 short notes, 5 marks each. So this is in general the paper pattern of the syllabus. This is 2 theory parts of this paper. Plus we have 3 practical questions carrying 20 marks each. the trend, what we observed in the last year was 2 questions was full-fledged of 20 marks and 1 question was split into 10 marks. If the same trend remains, then the paper would be quite simple, having 20 marks, 2 full-fledged question plus 10 marks, splitted up questions. When we say a question which is coming for 20 marks, it would be having the trend, what say, 2 sources of income plus 2 deductions. This clearly indicates that very less problems we would be expecting in the paper having a single source. The source would be 2 sources together and 2 deductions together. That makes a question of 20 marks. Now, what can be 2 sources together? It can be income from salary plus other sources plus 2 deductions. It can be income from house property, other sources, deductions. It surely be profit and gains from business profession plus 1 another source, maybe income from other sources and 2 deductions. Last paper, I'm repeating my words, last paper was having this paper pattern style. Question number 1 was purely objectives. Question number objectives में क्या पूछा था उन्होंने? Filling the blanks, sorry, MCQs and true or false, what we expect. It can be matchups, it can be filling the blanks, it can be true or false. It cannot be answered in 1 sentence. Remember this point very well. It cannot be answered in 1 sentence. Then they had asked question number 2, salary plus other sources plus 2 deductions. Usko option tha house property, other sources plus deductions. That was question number 2 in the paper. Question number 3 was profit and gains from business or profession or plus other sources plus deductions. Again, or bhi वैसा ही था, profit and gains from business or profession, or we can have the deductions plus deductions and the other sources. Question number 4 को उन्होंने split up कर दिया था. One part was capital gain plus residential status. A was capital gain, B was residential status, or the option was again capital gain, but the other option was scope of total income. This was in general the paper. And the last question was theory. 10 marks के 2 questions थे और उसको option था short notes. So if this paper pattern style remain, it is covering all the sources. So we can expect more or less paper pattern style like this only. Maybe the capital gain can come with other sources, or maybe the house property can be separated. More or less, we are expecting the paper pattern style like this only. Now, we start basically with the definitions. You all must have done definitions thoroughly. There are 6 definitions which is to be understood by each and every student. It starts with assessee. He is a person who is directly related with the income tax department, either for his own income tax or for refund or for penalty or for somebody else. So assessee, representative assessee. Then the definition is of previous year and assessment year. Very important to understand. Previous year वो होता है जिस साल में income earn होती है. Assessment year वो होता है जहाँ पे आपका income tax assess किया जाता है और जो remaining amount of the tax रहता है वो आप government को pay करते हैं. हमारे examination के लिए assess previous year है 2022-23 और हमारे examination के लिए assessment year है 2023-24. Understand very well. Then the another definition is person. There are 7 categories of person, starting with individual, HUF. Then we have this one second. Individual, HUF. Then we have partnership firm, a company, a body corporate or an association of person, a local authority, and any artificial judicial person not covered in the above categories. So we have the definition of person, we have the definition of assessment year, we have the definition of previous year, we have the definition of assessee, and finally the most important definition is income, जिसके ऊपर ये टैक्स लगती है. अब इसमें से हम क्या एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे पेपर में? Any of the definition can be asked for 5 marks as a short note. So surely one definition would be coming in 5 marks. Maybe quite possible 2 definitions together can come for 10 marks. Maybe they can put what are the various incomes as per the definition of income, section 224, a 10 marks question. So 5 marks surely as a short note, plus we can expect objectives based on this topic. So 2 objectives, at least 2 to 3 objectives can come on this topic. This is the first topic, definitions. Then we move towards to the second topic, which is your scope of income. Under scope of income, we have 3 types of problems that can be expected. Sorry, 2 types of problems that can be expected. One is the residential status and another one is the scope of total income. Now, just make you understand what is residential status. You all must have done section 6.1. उसको एकदम अच्छे से आपको याद रखना है क्योंकि 10 marks का full-fledged question would be coming on residential status. अब residential status में क्या आने वाला है? Full-fledged numerical problem plus objectives. Residential status हमें डिफाइन करता है कि हमारा रेसिडेंशियल स्टेटस इंडिया में क्या है. सेक्शन 6.1 की अगर हम कंडीशंस फुलफिल करते हैं तो वो डिफाइन करता है कि हमारी रेसिडेंशियल स्टेटस इन द कंट्री क्या है फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर प्रीवियस ईयर एंड द असेसमेंट ईयर. वो 1 साल का ही होता है, हर साल वो बदल सकता है. यू हैव टू रिमेंबर दिस. दैट इज द प्रैक्टिकल अप्रोच. हमारे लिए इस वक्त इम्पोर्टेंट क्या है? How to define my residential status. Just in a nutshell, section 6.1 speak about residential status. Very simple condition. If in any previous year, your stay in India is 182 days or more, you become resident. Then we have second condition. If you don't follow in the first condition, coming to the second condition, if in a particular previous year, हमारा ईयर है 22-23. If in a particular previous year, my stay in India is more than 60 days and in the last 4 preceding year to the current previous year, मतलब हमारे current previous year के पीछे वाले 4 अगर मेरा stay 365 days से ज्यादा है and in the current year it is more than 60 days, then I would be resident for that particular previous year. This is, again, there is an exception to the general rule. अगर आप employed हो, employment के लिए India से बाहर जा रहे हो for the first time, आप Indian citizen हो, then 60 days would be replaced by 182 days. अगर आप, you are a person of an Indian origin coming for the visit to India, विजिट टू इंडिया मतलब आप इंडिया में सिर्फ घूमने आ रहे हो, बिजनेस पर्पस से नहीं आ रहे हो, और यू आर अ मेंबर ऑफ अ क्रू, देन इन दैट केस 60 days would be replaced by 182 days. Plus you have to understand section 6.6. Section 6.6 speak about resident and ordinarily resident. 2 more additional condition and you will become resident and ordinarily resident. This is section 6.1 and section 6.6. A problem of 10 marks is expected on this section 6.1 and section 6.6. Moving towards scope of total income. Under scope of total income, incomes would be given to you and the question would be asked, which type of income is taxable under which heading? That means if you are a resident and ordinarily resident, if you are resident but not ordinarily resident, if you are non-resident, which type of income is taxable under which heading? So 8 incomes would be given to you. You have to identify which is taxable where, and you have to do the totaling. 8 marks for the correct entries and 2 marks for the total. दोनों ऑप्शंस में आ सकते हैं, दोनों एक साथ बिल्कुल भी नहीं आएंगे क्योंकि चैप्टर को 20 मार्क्स की वेटेज नहीं है, 10 मार्क्स की वेटेज, तो दोनों और में आएंगे, या तो पहला ऑप्शन या तो सेकेंड ऑप्शन, दोनों और में आएंगे, दोनों इकट्ठा बिल्कुल भी नहीं आएंगे क्योंकि वेटेज नहीं है 20 मार्क्स। सो हमारा क्वेश्चन, एक क्वेश्चन पक्का इसके ऊपर आएगा जिसमें हम पढ़ेंगे सेक्शन 6.1 एंड सेक्शन 6.6। Moving ahead, we have 5 sources of income. In all, we have 5 sources of income. First source of income is income from salary. Whatever type of income you are earning, all the incomes are divided into 5 sources of income. And the first source of income is income from salary. For income from salary, I'm sharing my screen to show you how the income from salary, which types of income is going to come under income from salary. I hope my screen is visible. Reena ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now coming to income from salary, the sections involved are from section 15 to section 17. These are the 3 sections which are going to speak about income from salary. Section 15 is the charging section. Section 16 are the deductions. And section 17, 1 is the definition of salary. 17.2 are the perquisites. Plus 17.3 is salary in lieu of profits in lieu of salary. Allowance. Now just look at the screen. This is the entire format for computation of income from salary. Every problem, whenever you are going to start, it is going to start with name of the assessee. Assessment year, you have to compulsory write, previous year, legal status, and residential status. Just give me 1 second. Just 1 minute. The screen is not coming. Okay, now coming to the salary topic. This is the performer suggested. There is nothing mandatory in income tax. The performers are not mandatory. All are suggested performers. So you have to mention previous year, legal status, residential status. At your level, all the problems are based on individual as a legal status, and the residential status is resident and ordinarily resident. To start with, we have salary, gross salary including arrears and any advance salary received. Arrears is also the part of your salary. Advance में आपको अगर कुछ मिल रहा है on the receipt basis, that is also the part of your salary. It starts with basic salary and wages. In the income tax point of view, there is no difference between the salary and the wages. Both are same, taxable under the same heading. Then we have fees, commission, any commission, whatever you receive. Pension, the taxable portion. What it means by the taxable portion? Whatever pension you are going to receive, which is called as the uncommuted pension. That means any pension, whatever you are going to receive monthly, 6 monthly, or a periodical payment, that would be taxable. Gratuity, it is taxable based on the provisions of section 10. Leave salary, whatever you are going to receive during the tenure of the job, it is taxable. and at the time of retirement, subject to the conditions of Section 10, remaining amount is taxable. Then come to annuity, then coming to bonus. Bonus, annuity means annual payment or 6 monthly payment like your pension. Bonus here means whatever bonus you are going to actually receive. If the company is going to just announce the bonus, it would not be taxable. If you are actually going to receive the bonus, then only it is taxable. Apart from this, you get allowances, that is your dearness allowance, which is called as DA. It is based on the percentage of the basic salary. You get house rent allowance. But house rent allowance to some extent, it is exempt under section 1013A. अब आपके लिए अच्छी न्यूज ये है कि आपको exempt amount याद नहीं करना है, क्वेश्चन में मेंशन रहेगा. कन्वेंस अलाउंस, आने जाने का खर्चा, उसमें भी कितना exempt है वो भी क्वेश्चन में मेंशन होगा. सिटी कंपेंसेशन अलाउंस, स्पेशल अलाउंस, लंच अलाउंस. लंच प्रोवाइड की जाती है सस्ते में तो वो परक्यूजिट होगा, लेकिन लंच के लिए फिक्स्ड पैसा दिया जाएगा, वो होगा अलाउंस. फिक्स्ड मेडिकल अलाउंस, आप बीमार पड़ रहे हो, आपके लिए कंपनी खर्चा कर रही है, जब आप बीमार पड़ रहे हो तब वो खर्चा कर रही है, रीइंबर्समेंट कर रही है, तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट है. लेकिन हर महीने आपको फिक्स्ड अमाउंट दे रही है बीमारी के लिए, देन इट इज टैक्सेबल. Servant allowances is taxable when you are a specified employee. आप specified employee कब बनते हो? जब आप डायरेक्टर हो कंपनी के, या आपके पास 25% वोटिंग राइट्स है कंपनी के, या आपकी सैलरी 50,000 ईयरली से ऊपर है, उस केस में आप स्पेसिफाइड एम्प्लॉय बनते हो. और इन टुडेज टाइम everybody is specified employee, so servant allowances would be taxable. Entertainment allowance received would be taxable. Moving ahead, the perquisites. Perquisite matlab whatever non-monetary benefit you get. If you get any non-monetary benefit, like रहने के लिए घर, आपके लिए अच्छी न्यूज ये है कि आपको वो अमाउंट देंगे कि this much amount is taxable. You don't have to do the calculation. Any concession in rent. Any benefit, amenity granted free of cost to the specified employee. Like मेरे घर पे कुक की फैसिलिटी, मेरे घर पे मेड की फैसिलिटी, मेरे घर पे वॉचमैन की फैसिलिटी, दिस वुड बी टैक्सेबल. उनकी सैलरी जितनी मेरी कंपनी पे करेगी, दैट वुड बी टैक्सेबल. Employees obligation discharged by the employer. Any employees obligation discharged by the employer का मतलब है मेरी कोई भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, मेरे बेटे की स्कूल की फी, मेरी LIC प्रीमियम, मेरे क्लब का प्रीमियम, मेरी वाइफ ब्यूटी पार्लर में गई उसका खर्चा, इफ दिस इज पेड बाय माय एम्प्लॉयर, इट वुड बी टैक्सेबल. एनी प्रीमियम फॉर अ पीरियड ऑफ एम्प्लॉई, एन्युटी प्लान, एनीथिंग, लाइफ ऑफ एम्प्लॉय, मेरा LIC प्रीमियम पे करना. एनी फ्रेंच बेनिफिट मीन्स नॉन मॉनिटरी बेनिफिट गिवन टू मी. So these all would be taxable. There are certain perquisites which are non-taxable, like a computer given by my employee, a laptop given by my employee, a mobile phone given by my employee, that are non-taxable. Education facilities to my children, that are non-taxable. लेकिन वो कॉलेज और इंस्टीट्यूट उनका होना चाहिए, my company का ही होना चाहिए. Then coming to profit and leave of salary. Apart from this, if I get anything else from my employer, like compensation received from the employer, मैं जॉब पे काम कर रही हूँ, अचानक काम करते करते मशीन में मेरा हाथ फंस गया और मुझे कंपेंसेशन मिला, that is my part of my salary. Employer contribution to the unrecognized provident fund. Provident fund compulsorily every company have to keep, but if you are contributing towards an unrecognized provident fund, then it would be taxable. Payment received for outstanding performance on the occasion of Diwali, any gift received, any payment received. Employer's contribution to the recognized provident fund in excess of 12% of the basic salary. Any provision, any contribution towards recognized provident fund, if it is more than 12% of your basic salary, then it would be taxable. And if you receive an interest which is exceeding 9.5% of the basic salary, then definitely it would be taxable. Any amount received under keyman insurance policy. Now, who is this keyman? Keyman is the person who is most important person in an organization. So, if there is any keyman person, like Mukesh Ambani for the Reliance Industry, if any company make a policy for that keyman insurance person and whatever amount he is going to receive at the time of the maturity, that would be taxable under the heading salary. You will ahead see also, if it is not taxable under the head salary, just 1 minute, then it would be taxable. Then it would be taxable under income, profit and gains from business or profession. Sometimes this would be taxable under income from other sources. Now coming to the deductions, ये सब तो taxable हो गया. हर source में आपको deductions हैं. इस source में there are only 3 deductions. First is standard deduction. Standard deduction is allowed under section 16(1). The maximum amount of the deduction is rupees 50,000 or whatever your salary, gross salary is coming, whichever is less. That is the maximum amount of the deduction. The second deduction is entertainment allowance. पहला deduction है standard deduction, that is 50,000. अगर आपकी सैलरी 50,000 से कम है तो वो कम वाला अमाउंट, और अगर 50,000 से ऊपर है तो 50,000. And next is entertainment allowance. Entertainment allowance is the deduction allowed only and only to the government employee. If you are a government employee, then only this deduction would be allowed to you. How much it is allowed? It is allowed 1/5 of the basic salary or rupees 5,000 or entertainment allowance if received in तीनों में से whichever is less. It is allowed as a deduction. And the third one is profession tax. आपकी हर month आपके salary में से profession tax का amount deduct होता है. That is allowed as a deduction. It is around 2,000 in the year, I suppose 2,400 in the year. That is allowed as a deduction. Whatever answer you get, that would be your net taxable salary. So just in a nutshell, in salary, we have basic salary, fees, commission, pension, leave salary, annuity. These are the various allowances and these are the taxable purposes. This is profit and leave of salary. 3 deductions, standard deductions, entertainment allowance, professional tax, and which is also called as tax on employment. The whatever answer you get, that would be net taxable income from salary. Now, this is the first source of income. I had gone through all the points which can be coming under income from salary. I don't expect much more than this pro forma from income from salary. Now, moving towards to the second source. Just 1 second. Yes. I hope the screen is visible. Yeah, it is visible. Coming towards the second source of income. Second source of income is income from house property. Now, this source of income would be having 5 sections, starting from section 22 to section 27. To start with, first of all, the basis in this we have to understand What is the basis for calculating income from house property? That is nothing but the annual value. This is the inherent capacity of the property to earn the income. The charge is not because of the receipt of any income, but due to the inherent potential of the house property to generate the income. Just to understand, first of all, income from house property would be taxable not on the value of the house property, but not on the value of the house property, but its capacity to earn the income. अब उसकी capacity to earn the income क्या होती है? It's rent. Basically, किसी भी property की earning कहाँ से हो सकती है? Due to its rent. If I am going to sell the property, it would be going under capital gains. Whatever profit I'm going to earn from the sale of the property, that would be going under capital gains. Now, what we understand from the property? Property must consist of buildings and land appurtenant thereto. Building, land और उसके साथ जो भी connected land है, पूरी building के साथ attached अगर कोई land है, that would be the property land. That would be also called as your property income. The assessee must be compulsorily the owner of the property. Understand very well. If you are the tenant, then it cannot be called as your house property income. The property must be used for any purpose, but should not be used by the owner for the purpose of any business or profession carried on by him, the profits of which are chargeable to tax. Yes. Now, what is the annual value? As per section 23(1)(a), the annual value of any property shall be the sum for which the property may be reasonably expected to be let out from year to year. मतलब आप उसको रेंट पे दोगे और रेंट से आपको जो अमाउंट मिलेगा, that would be the annual value of the property. Now, whenever we are going to consider the annual value, the following factors are important. First, actual rent received or receivable, municipal value, fair rent of the property, and the standard rent. What I have to do for calculating the annual value? For calculating the annual value, what I have to do? I have to compare this municipal value with the fair rent of the property. That would be called as reasonable letting value. This reasonable letting value should not be exceeding the standard rent. If it is exceeding the standard rent, then if it should not exceed the standard rent in any of the situation. So municipal value or the fair rent, whichever is higher, but it should not exceed the standard rent. Then that would be compared with the actual rent received or receivable, out of which whichever is higher, that would be called as gross annual value. Again, I am repeating, municipal value, fair rent. इन दोनों को compare करोगे, जो ज़्यादा होगा, it should be compared with the standard rent. Both the rent should not be exceeding the standard rent, and that would be compared with the actual rent. अगर actual rent ज़्यादा है, वो ज़्यादा वाला amount would be considered as your gross annual value. From this gross annual value, we have to deduct the municipal taxes paid by the owner during the previous year. And the balance would be called as net annual value. उसके ऊपर deductions हमें मिलेंगे. When we talk about the property can be of three categories. First, if it is self-occupied, मतलब मैं खुद उसमें रह रही हूँ. दूसरा, the property is let out for the entire year. तीसरी, the property is let out for half of the year it is self-occupied. चौथी, पूरा टाइम प्रॉपर्टी खाली पड़ी है, मैं उसमें रह नहीं रही हूँ, लेकिन वो प्रॉपर्टी खाली पड़ी है, जिसको हम बोलेंगे deemed to be let out property. Now, for SOP, whenever we are talking about SOP, that is the self-occupied property, मेरे पास अगर 3 properties हैं, any 2 properties can be considered as SOP with the new provisions. SOP में gross annual value would be nil. There would not be any deduction for the municipal taxes. Net annual value would be nil. Coming to the let out property and deemed to be let out property, deductions from net annual value would be available. There are two deductions permissible under section 24A and 24B. Gross annual value, where the property is let out and was vacant for the part of the year and actual rent receivable is more than the reasonable expected value in spite of the vacancy period. The gross annual value in this case would be the sum for which the property might be reasonably expected to be let out or actual rent received, whichever is higher. This I had explained you. Gross annual value is the municipal value or fair rent, which would be compared with the actual rent, whichever is higher would be taken as your gross annual value. Now, what are the deductions available from income from house property? If your property is SOP, the gross annual value is nil. Net annual value is also nil. If your property is let out property, the gross annual value would be calculated as I shown in the last slide. If it is deemed to be let out, then also it would be calculated as I shown in the last slide. Coming to the deductions. Two deductions are allowed. पहला वाला statutory deduction. आप प्रॉपर्टी के ऊपर खर्चा करो नहीं करो, रिपेयरिंग करो नहीं करो, 30% of the net asset value, that is your net annual value, would be allowed as the deduction. Would be allowed as the deduction. But this deduction would not be allowed to the self-occupied property and to the deemed to be let out. This deduction would not be allowed to the self-occupied property owners. Coming to the second deduction, this is interest on borrowed capital, where the property has been acquired, constructed, repaired, renewed, or reconstructed with the borrowed capital. The amount of the interest payable on such capital would be allowed as a deduction. If you have taken any loan on the property, प्रॉपर्टी को बनाने के लिए, कंस्ट्रक्ट करने के लिए, परचेज करने के लिए अगर आपने कोई लोन लिया है, यू वुड बी अलाउड एज अ डिडक्शन. एसओपी के लिए क्या रूल है? सेल्फ ऑक्यूपाइड प्रॉपर्टी के लिए रूल है कि अगर लोन 1/4/1999 से पहले लिया गया है, डेट इंपॉर्टेंट है, 1 अप्रैल 1999 से पहले लिया गया है, द डिडक्शन अमाउंट इज 30,000. And if it is taken after 1/4/1999, the amount is 1,50,000. And if it is the deemed to be let out property or LOP, that is let out property, whatever amount of interest you pay, entire is allowed as a deduction. यहाँ पे एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है, वर्डिंग है इंटरेस्ट ऑन बोरोड कैपिटल. ऐसा नहीं लिखा हुआ है इंटरेस्ट पेड ऑन बोरोड कैपिटल. तो आप इंटरेस्ट पे करो या नहीं करो तो भी आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा, लेकिन एक ही बार मिलेगा, आइदर ऑन द अप्रूवल बेसिस और ऑन द पेमेंट बेसिस. मूविंग अहेड, देयर इज अ प्री कंस्ट्रक्शन पीरियड. आपने लोन लिया और कंस्ट्रक्शन खत्म होते होते 2-3 साल लग गए, तो वो पीरियड के इंटरेस्ट को क्या करेंगे? हम वो पीरियड के इंटरेस्ट को कैलकुलेट करेंगे और जिस दिन मुझे पोजीशन मिलेगी, जब आपका प्रॉपर्टी का कंस्ट्रक्शन खत्म हो जाएगा, उस साल से लेकर नेक्स्ट 5 इयर्स तक आपको उसका डिडक्शन मिलेगा. सपोज प्री कंस्ट्रक्शन है 50,000, आपने जिस साल में कंस्ट्रक्शन खत्म की वो साल से आपको 5 साल तक डिडक्शन मिलेगा. कितना? 50,000 डिवाइडेड बाय 5. दिस इज द फॉर्मेट. ग्रॉस एनुअल वैल्यू लेस म्युनिसिपल टैक्सेस पेड, नेट एनुअल वैल्यू लेस स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन, यू less interest on borrowed capital, deductible, you get income from self-occupied property. Now, if you receive arrears of rent, if suppose आपने किसी को प्रॉपर्टी रेंट पे दे दी, कुछ सालों के बाद वो बंदा पूरा साल मेरे पास रहा, 2 महीने की रेंट नहीं दी और वो छोड़ के चला गया, तो ये 2 महीने की रेंट जिस साल में भी मुझे मिलेगी, चाहे मेरे पास प्रॉपर्टी हो नहीं हो, it would be called as arrears of rent and it would be taxable under income from house property, जिसके ऊपर मुझे डिडक्शन मिलेगा 30%. So this is in short about your income from house property. 3 तरह की प्रॉपर्टीज, SOP, LOP, deemed to be LOP. SOP में income self occupied property, जिसमें ग्रॉस एनुअल वैल्यू निल होगी, लेट आउट में ग्रॉस एनुअल वैल्यू आप कैलकुलेट करोगे, डीम्ड भी लेट आउट में भी आप कैलकुलेट करोगे. ग्रॉस एनुअल वैल्यू में ग्रॉस एनुअल वैल्यू वुड बी gross annual value would be your actual rent or your municipal value or fair rent, whichever is higher. It would be compared with the standard rent. It should not increase by the standard rent, and that would be compared with the actual rent. Lekin agar actual rent is less due to vacancy period or arrears of rent, in that case the lesser amount would be considered as your gross annual value. This is about income from house property. Now coming to the third source, that is your income from business or profession. Just sharing with the screen. Yes, coming to the third important source where I'm expecting a full-fledged question for 20 marks. Now, what is this income from business or profession? Basically, you must be very well aware what is business, what is profession, what is vocation. All the three are going to be coming under the same heading, business or profession. Income tax is not bothered whether the business is legal or illegal. Coming to the charging section, there are many incomes which would be called as income from business or profession, which are coming under section 28, like your revenue profits, not the capital profits, revenue profits from business or profession, any compensation due or received by an agency, any income derived by a professional association, any receipt in case of foreign trade like profit on sale of license, duty drawback, any value of any benefit purchase received from business or profession. जैसे किसी डॉक्टर को कोई पेशेंट खुश होकर एक आईफोन दे देता है, that is a perquisite. Any interest, salary, bonus, commission received by a partner, any profit received or receivable for certain agreement for not carrying out any activity in relation to any business, any keyman insurance policy, any interest on securities, any sum received on account of any capital asset. आपकी कोई कैपिटल असेट डिमोलिश्ड हो गई है, डिस्कार्ड हो गई है और उसके ऊपर पूरी डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज हो गई है, देन व्हाटएवर अमाउंट यू गेट दैट वुड बी अलाउड. Any income from the speculative business. Speculation business is also to be called as your business, but this would be shown separately. Normal business अलग दिखाया जाएगा, speculation business अलग दिखाया जाएगा. तो ये सभी आपकी है business income. बिजनेस इनकम में से बहुत सारे एक्सपेंसेस अलाउड होते हैं, लाइक एक्सपेंसेस इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ बिजनेस प्रीमाइसेस. आपका बिजनेस प्रीमाइसेस है, उसकी आपने रिपेयरिंग की, रेंट की, कुछ भी प्रीमाइसेस के ऊपर खर्चा किया, इंश्योरेंस पे किया, टैक्स पे किया, दैट इज अलाउड. प्लांट एंड मशीनरी के ऊपर कोई रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर किया, वो भी अलाउड है. डेप्रिसिएशन भी अलाउड है उसके ऊपर. लेकिन डेप्रिसिएशन की एक बात याद रखनी है, जो कंपनी एक्ट के हिसाब से आप डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करोगे या किसी और एक्ट के हिसाब से डेप्रिसिएशन चार्ज करोगे, वो डिसअलाउड है. जो डेप्रिसिएशन इनकम टैक्स वाली है वही अलाउ होगी. और अगर कोई आपकी एसेट, ऑब्जेक्टिव आ सकता है, कोई आपकी एसेट 180 डेज से कम यूटिलाइज होती है तो उसके ऊपर आप चार्ज करोगे 50% डेप्रिसिएशन. Then any expenditure on the scientific research. If you do any expenditure on the scientific research, that is allowed as a deduction. Any amortization of preliminary expenses. Business start करने से पहले अगर आपने कोई preliminary expenses किया है, that is also allowed as a deduction. लेकिन वो कैसे allow होगा? For the 5 years, and maximum amount is 5% of the cost of the project or 5% of the capital employed. Other deductions like insurance premium paid for the stock, insurance premium for cattle, insurance premium paid for the health of the employees, but in check, bonus, commission, interest paid on borrowed capital, discount on zero coupon bonds, bad dates, employers' contribution to provident fund, loss of the animals, expenditure on the family planning, it is allowed, and these are the allowable expenditures. There are certain expenditures. Even these are there is section 37, which are the general deduction. With these, there are certain expenditures which are allowed from the business. यहाँ पे आपको लॉजिक लगाना है. लॉजिक क्या लगाना है कि आपको देखना है कि ये एक्सपेंडिचर बिजनेस से रिलेटेड है तो उसको हम अलाउ करेंगे. एंड इट शुड बी ऑफ द रेवेन्यू इन नेचर एंड इट शुड नॉट बी ऑफ द पर्सनल नेचर. पर्सनल नेचर मतलब एम्प्लॉयर खुद को सैलरी दे रहा है, एम्प्लॉयर खुद को इंटरेस्ट दे रहा है, एम्प्लॉयर की वाइफ कंपनी में काम कर रही जो 10th पास है उसको 50,000 सैलरी दे रहा है. तो ऐसे एक्सपेंडिचर अलाउड नहीं होंगे. लेकिन जो बिजनेस से रिलेटेड है, रेवेन्यू इन नेचर है, वो अलाउेबल होंगे. And there are certain expenditures which are specifically disallowed, like any expenditure incurred on the protection money, hafta, bribe, not allowed. Any expenditure incurred on the CSR activity will also be not allowed. Any expenditure incurred for the advertisement in the political party souvenir, ये पेपर में पक्का आएगा, it is also disallowed. Any expenditure, any penalty paid would also be disallowed. Income tax, specifically disallowed. Income tax refund is not the income. Why? Because you are calculating income tax. So income tax is disallowed. Lekin interest on refund of income tax is an chargeable income. This is the list of certain expenditures which are allowed, like purchase, manufacture, sale, day-to-day business, GST, contribution to provident fund, contribution towards employees, royalty, compulsory subscription of an listing in the stock exchange. So these are allowable. But there are certain expenses which should, if they are paid in cash, they are not allowed. Like if any expenditure which is incurred in cash for rupees more than 10,000 rupees, it is specifically disallowed. Pura ka pura. So any tax, whichever you are going to pay, it would be allowed only on the paid basis. Any losses like robbery, dacoity, embezzlement of cash, that is allowed. But any penalty paid for infraction of law, it is not allowed. Now, what the format go? The format would be very simple. You have to start with net profit or loss as per profit and loss account. In that, you have to add any expenses disallowed, like किसी को penalty pay कर दी, या आपने कुछ infringement of law के लिए penalty pay कर दी, या advertisement of souvenir में आपने political party में advertisement कर दिया, वो आपको add करना है. Plus, you have to add any depreciation which is appearing in the P&L account, this to be added. Any interest on capital is to be added. Any excessive payment to the relative is to be added. Any salary taken by the proprietor for himself to be added. तो minus क्या करना है? जो expenses allowable है और adjustment में दिख रहे हैं. Like income tax as per income tax rules. हमेशा minus होगा. और ऐसी कोई income जो business की नहीं है और आपने यहाँ पे गलती से दिखा दी है, मतलब P&L की क्रेडिट साइड आपने गलती से दिखा दी है, आप उसको भी माइनस करोगे. कौन सी? इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी, इनकम फ्रॉम सैलरी, बैंक इंटरेस्ट, ये सब आप माइनस कर दोगे. और लास्ट में ऐसी कोई इनकम जो बिजनेस की है और आप दिखाना भूल गए हो तो उसको आप ऐड करोगे. तो 4 चीजें. पहली, ऑल द एक्सपेंसेस व्हिच आर डिसअलाउड इज टू बी एडेड. All the expenses which are allowed is to be subtracted. All the incomes which are not chargeable, मतलब जो business की नहीं है, was to be deducted. And any business income भूल गए हो आप add करना तो उसको आप add करोगे. And final answer you would be getting is income from business or profession. Moving towards the next source, that is your capital gains. Now, capital gains is a very small source. Only 3 things you have to remember for capital gains. First of all, whether it is a long-term capital asset or a short-term capital asset. Short-term capital asset कब होगी? Depending upon the period of holding. अगर listed company के shares हैं 12 months, unlisted है 24 months. कोई land है 36, लैंड है 24 months और कोई एसेट है 36 months. Depending upon the period of the holding, you decide whether it is long-term capital asset or a short-term capital asset. If it is a long-term capital asset and if you sell out that asset, what you are going to subtract? Very simple thing. Sale of asset, that is the sale consideration received from the sale of asset, minus the indexed value of that asset. Index value का मतलब क्या होता है? जिस साल में हमने प्रॉपर्टी खरीदी थी उस साल में गवर्नमेंट की इंडेक्सेशन क्या थी? कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे? Cost of the asset multiplied by the current year index factor divided by the index factor of that particular year. और अगर कोई प्रॉपर्टी 2001 या 2 से पहले खरीदी गई है तो 2001 और 2 की फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू लेंगे एंड 2001 एंड 2 का इंडेक्स फैक्टर है 100. सो वेरी वेरी सिंपल. और वो प्रॉपर्टी खरीदने के टाइम पे अगर हमें से बेचने के टाइम पे अगर हमें कोई एक्सपेंसेस होते हैं दैट इज टू बी डिडक्टेड. और अगर मेरी प्रॉपर्टी शॉर्ट टर्म है तो डायरेक्टली द कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन इज टू बी डिडक्टेड. Whenever you are calculating the capital gain, for the long-term capital gain, as per the syllabus, we have two deductions. One, if you are selling out a residential property, in that case, if you purchase a new residential property 1 year before or 2 years within 2 years after the sale, or you construct within 3 years after the sale, in that case, you would be getting a deduction, whatever amount you had invested in the new residential property or your long-term capital gain, whichever is less. That means you cannot have a negative income in the capital gain. अगर आप कोई एसेट नहीं खरीद रहे हो, कोई प्रॉपर्टी रेसिडेंशियल नहीं खरीद रहे हो, तो आप अपने पैसे एक बैंक अकाउंट में ओपन करो, which is called as capital gain scheme account. अगर आपने पैसे वहां पे रखे और वो पीरियड के अंदर आपने अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट की तो आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा. अगर आपने इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं की, पूरा का पूरा लॉन्ग टर्म कैपिटल गेन वुड बी टैक्सेबल इन द प्रीवियस ईयर. जस्ट 1 minute. Moving ahead, the another deduction, you have to invest in the bonds. The locking period of the bonds is 3 years. Where you have to invest? There are certain specific bonds which are for the long-term capital gain, like National Highway Authority of India, Rural Electrification Bonds of India. अगर आपने इसमें investment की, then you would be getting a deduction. Moving towards the last source, which is income from other sources. One second, sharing with the screen. Yes, income from other sources. This is the residual section. Any income which is not chargeable in the above 4 sources, that would be chargeable under this source. The first one is income from subletting of a house property by a tenant. By a tenant. ओनर अगर रेंट पे देता है वो होता है इनकम फ्रॉम हाउस प्रॉपर्टी. अगर टेनेंट जिसने रेंट पे लिया है वही किसी और को रेंट पे देगा तो उसे जो एक्स्ट्रा इनकम जनरेट होगी that would be income from house property. Sorry, income from other sources. Interest on bank deposit, interest on loan, any rent from the vacant piece of plot of land, any agricultural income situated outside India. Indian वाली agricultural income exempt होती है, outside India वाली taxable. Insurance commission, income from any undisclosed source जो आप प्रूव नहीं कर पा रहे हो. Interest received on the delayed refund of income tax, remuneration received by the person other than his employer. जैसे कोई कॉलेज का प्रोफेसर है, यूनिवर्सिटी से कोई रेम्यूनरेशन मिले तो. Income from royalty, if not it is profit and gains. Director for sitting in the board meetings. Dividend is taxable. Winning from the lotteries would be taxable, but the tax would be added in that. अगर net amount होगा तो आपको उसको gross करना पड़ेगा and it would be taxable. Then any interest from interest on securities, any income from letting out of plant and machinery, मतलब आपने machinery, furniture, computer इनको अगर rent पे दिया है, any income received under keyman insurance policy. I told you at the time of salary, whenever the income is received under keyman insurance policy, if it is chargeable under salary, well and good. Chargeable under profit and gains, well and good. If it is not chargeable in any other source, it would be chargeable under this source. Any receipt of any sum of money without consideration, any receipt of any immovable property, this is nothing but your gift. Any gift, whatever you receive, if it is more than rupees 50,000 and it is not from the relative, not due to will and not at the time of the marriage, it would be taxable. So these are certain incomes which are taxable under here. Just 1 second, I want to show you the deductions. The deductions which are available under this source are repairs of the building, insurance premium, repairs of plant and machinery, depreciation, any other expenditure not of the capital nature. Only one deduction is important. What I like to show you here is, 1 second. If you receive any family pension, that family pension, whatever the persons who are receiving this family pension, the deduction would be allowed. What deduction would be allowed? 1/3 of the family pension or rupees 15,000, whichever is less, is allowed as a deduction. This is the last fifth source. Coming to the overall deductions, there are 7 overall deductions. Sharing the screen with you. Yes. One second, sharing the screen. Because the syllabus is so vast, I have to cover in different slides. Okay. Now coming to the deductions. I hope the screen is visible. Yes. What deductions we have from the gross total income? It starts with section 80A1. Section 80A says your gross total income cannot exceed your total amount of deductions. Whatever amount of deductions you have, it should be up to your gross total income. You cannot have deductions more than your gross total income. The first deduction is section 80C. Under this section, deduction can be claimed up to rupees 1,50,000 in the if you make an investment in this specified modes. कौन सा specified mode है? Premium paid in respect of life insurance policy. आपने कोई life insurance policy ली है, annuity plan लिया है, आपने स्टैट्यूटरी प्रोविडेंट फंड में इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है, पब्लिक प्रोविडेंट फंड में इन्वेस्टमेंट किया, सुकन्या समृद्धि अकाउंट, नेशनल सेविंग सर्टिफिकेट, any unit linked insurance plan, any plan of LIC, any notified plan of UTI, any contribution to National Housing Bank, any subscription, any tuition fee. आप खुद की ट्यूशन फी मतलब जो आपके फीस में दिखे, ट्यूशन फी रिसिप्ट में आप अपने बच्चों की ट्यूशन फी पे कर रहे हो, that is allowed. Any repayment of loan, any subscription to the certain units of mutual fund, any investment in 5-year term deposit, any investment in a 5-year deposit of the bank, the deduction is allowed. 80CCC is same. Along with 80C, you can get a deduction of 80CCC if you make an investment in the pension fund. But the maximum amount cannot be more than 1,50,000. If you make the investment in new pension scheme, then extra 50,000 deduction you would be allowed. This is 80C. Coming to 80D, 80D is a medical insurance premium. अगर आप खुद के लिए मेडिकल इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम लेते हो और पेमेंट चेक से करते हो, कैश से नहीं, then the deduction can be allowed for, then the deduction would be allowed for this. The maximum amount is 25,000 और अगर आपने सीनियर सिटीजन के लिए लिया, the amount goes to 50,000. आप इंश्योरेंस प्रीमियम किसके लिए ले सकते हो? खुद के लिए, वाइफ के लिए, डिपेंडेंट बच्चों के लिए एंड पेरेंट्स के लिए. और अगर आपकी एज 60 के ऊपर है, the amount will go to 50,000. Deduction in respect of ATDD is if any person is dependent on you, either your parents or your spouse, उनकी मेंटेनेंस के लिए आप खर्चा करो या न करो. अगर वो डिसेबल्ड है तो आपको डिडक्शन मिलेगा. डिडक्शन कितना मिलेगा? अगर वो बंदा 80% से कम डिसेबल है तो 75,000, 80% से ज्यादा डिसेबल है तो 1,25,000. This is for ATDD. Next is ATE. If you take any education loan, either for yourself or for your spouse or for your children, for higher education, you would be getting a deduction for the interest. कितना deduction for interest मिलेगा? कितने सालों तक मिलेगा? In the initial assessment year and in the next 7 assessment years, you would be getting the deduction. Then comes ATTTA. If you have any saving bank of account, whatever amount of interest you would be getting up to rupees 10,000 is allowed as a deduction. Final deduction is ATU. If you are any disabled person himself earning the income, if the disability is less than 80%, deduction of rupees 75,000, and if the disability is more than 80%, the deduction is rupees 1,25,000. This is the gross deduction. यहाँ पे कुछ भी cut वगैरह नहीं होता है. These are the certain references where you can see the deductions. So here we completed the entire DIT in a short. Reena madam.
Yes, ma'am.
So I tried to cover in 1 hour everything.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it is very difficult to cover DIT. Yeah, even if it is an overview of the subject, it's very, very difficult to cover. And you could cover all the topics, all the core concepts in 1 hour. So thanks a lot, ma'am. And since you have a lot of experience and you are yourself the exam coordinator for university, so you could explain what are the essential concepts the students have to emphasize on while preparing for the exams. So yes, once again, thank you very much, ma'am. And there is one question from the student side that since the syllabus is very vast, so is there any scope to keep any chapter for option?
No, madam, they can't keep any of the chapter as option because it can be like salary with house property, it can be with salary with other sources.
Yes.
So we cannot keep any chapter as option.
Yes,
but they can do one thing, they can refer to all the important points. Yes. And they can refer both the papers, that is November 22 and April 23 for their reference.
That is also very, very important while preparing for exam. Yes. Referring the previous year papers.
Previous year. And especially November 22 and April 23.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am, once again for giving valuable content to our students. And always, whenever I call Bhavna ma'am, she is accepting the invitation for whichever help we ask for. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you to the principal, sir, of S.S.T College, Dr. J.C. Purswani, sir, and IQSC coordinator, Khushbu Purswani, ma'am, for their valuable guidance. I thank to the Department of Commerce, all the HODs, and technical as well as administrative staff for supporting and extending their help for organizing this crash course series. And thank you to all the students, those who have attended this session and made this session successful. Thank you. And tomorrow we will meet with the next subject crash course series at 11 o'clock. Till then, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I leave, ma'am?